Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you the top stories from India and the region. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and for news from rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague Ollie Barrett in London. Good to see you, Ollie.
Hello Shubhendu, it's 11:30 a.m. here in London, 12:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next half hour, among other things, we'll take you live to Ukraine. We'll get the latest on Sweden's accession to NATO and what Joe Biden thinks of the State of the Union. First, the headlines.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Jammu and Kashmir, launches key development projects, says youth are getting equal opportunities post-abrogation of Article 370. Russia prepares for presidential polls amidst Ukraine war, ballot papers delivered in annexed Crimea, troops advance in eastern Ukraine. Taiwan accuses China of stepping up grey zone warfare after China dropped peaceful reunification reference to Taiwan. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday, participating in the Viksit Bharat, Viksit Jammu and Kashmir, or Developed India, Developed Jammu and Kashmir program, during which he inspected the exhibition based on local art and culture aimed at boosting agri-economy and tourism. He also launched and dedicated multiple projects worth rupees 5,000 crores to the nation.
Jammu Kashmir आज तेज रफ्तार से विकास के मार्ग पर आगे बढ़ रहा है। यहाँ के लोगों को एक नहीं बल्कि दो एम्स की सुविधा मिलने जा रही है। एम्स जम्मू का उद्घाटन हो चुका है और एम्स कश्मीर पर तेजी से काम चल रहा है। 7 नए मेडिकल कॉलेज, 2 बड़े कैंसर अस्पताल स्थापित किए गए हैं। IIT और IIM जैसे आधुनिक शिक्षा संस्थान भी बने हैं। जम्मू कश्मीर में 2 वंदे भारत ट्रेनें भी चल रही है। श्रीनगर से संगलदान और संगलदान से बारामूला के लिए ट्रेन सेवा शुरू हो चुकी है। कनेक्टिविटी के विस्तार से जम्मू कश्मीर में आर्थिक गतिविधियां तेज हुई है। जम्मू और श्रीनगर को स्मार्ट सिटी बनाने के लिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के नए प्रोजेक्ट भी लाए जा रहे हैं। आप देखिएगा, आने वाले समय में जम्मू कश्मीर की सक्सेस स्टोरी पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा आकर्षण का केंद्र बनेगा।
Prime Minister Modi also distributed appointment letters and interacted with beneficiaries of various schemes from Shopia, Jammu, Kupwara, Srinagar, Gandarbal, Bandipora, Kathua and Kishtwar. And among the slew of projects launched by Prime Minister, one was the integrated development of Hazrat Bal Shrine that holds immense cultural significance in Jammu and Kashmir. Here's more.
Situated on the left bank of the famous Dal Lake in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the Hazrat Bal Shrine holds relevance to Muslims as it is believed to preserve the sacred hair of Prophet Muhammad's beard. In an effort to create world-class infrastructure and amenities for pilgrims and tourists visiting the Hazrat Bal Shrine, and to enhance their holistic spiritual experience, the project Integrated Development of Hazrat Bal Shrine has been executed. The key components of the project include site development of the entire area, including construction of boundary wall of the shrine, illumination of Hazrat Bal Shrine's precinct, improvement of ghats and devri pats around the shrine, construction of Sufi interpretation center construction of tourist facilitation center, installation of signages, multi-level storied car parking, construction of public convenience blocks, and entrance gateway of the shrine. The projects to be developed with over $4 million will increase tourism and will generate direct employment for the locals. Not only this, it will also boost and promote local handicrafts, cuisines, art and culture in the entire region. To be revamped under the pilgrimage rejuvenation and spiritual augmentation drive, the Hazratbal Shrine holds immense cultural significance in Jammu and Kashmir. Prasad provides financial assistance to state governments, union territory administrations for infrastructure development at tourist destinations. With inputs from Ramatyagi, DD India.
Moving on, the process for presidential elections in Russia due on 15th to 17th of March is already underway. Ballot papers for the elections were delivered to Sevastopol in annexed Crimea on Wednesday. The election officials say 3,33,900 ballots have been printed for the city, which is over 2,000 less than the registered voters. As per local election commission secretary, almost 24,000 voters are voting remotely with electronic ballots. This is for the second time that Crimean voters are taking part in Russian presidential polls after Russia annexed Crimea and Sevastopol in February of 2014. And DD India correspondent Dasha Chernisova is joining us live from Moscow. Dasha, Crimean Peninsula appears to be one of the key targets of Ukrainian counteroffensive. How challenging does that make these elections in the region, and symbolically, how significant?
Well, indeed, Ukraine does not recognize Crimea as part of Russia. Nevertheless, almost 10 years, Russia has been calling this territory as its own. And the election in which the people will be voting for the Russian president between the 15th of March and the 17th of March are due to be held there as well. We understand that the special ballot boxes have already arrived to the peninsula. These are the electronic ballot boxes that will provide for the quick count of the vote. And obviously the Russian authorities are taking all the measures that are required to provide for the security. We have seen indeed several attempts by the Ukrainian armed forces to attack this peninsula, including from the sea and with the naval drones that have been designed by Ukraine, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense. But nevertheless, all of the security measures are in place, and that's why it is said to be safe enough for the residents to go to the ballot boxes and to cast their votes even on the election day. We also understand that the election will be held for 3 days, and there will be also the system of electronic voting. This is something that has become the reality and the new normal after the COVID-19 time. So indeed, the election is slated to be held in this region as well as in other regions that Russia now calls as its own, the so-called new territories.
And politically, is there any real challenge to President Putin in these elections?
Well, look, there are 4 people whose names are on the ballots, 4 candidates. It is indeed the shortest ballot in years, but obviously the Russian president is expected to win with a great majority. We understand that the turnout, according to the most recent public opinion polls, is expected to be well over 70%. It could reach some 80% according to some pollsters. And we also understand that the Russian president enjoys the wide approval among the Russians, and the special military operation in Ukraine is one of the factors that have played in Putin's favor, because many people have united behind his back, believing that he is the right person to lead the country, especially at the time that Moscow is facing at the moment. And the Russian authorities have been spreading the understanding that it is Moscow is currently in the war with the Western countries, who have unleashed the full-scale hybrid attack against Moscow.
Dasha, thank you for those updates. Meanwhile, in the ongoing conflict, Russia continues to take more ground in east of Ukraine. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, what updates are you tracking at this hour?
Well, Shubendu, Russian troops certainly say they are continuing to move forward in eastern Ukraine for a third consecutive week now. After capturing the strategic Avdiivka city in February, Russian troops have moved towards the outskirts of Orlivka and Berdichi. The Russian Defense Ministry says Moscow's forces took 4 months to advance through the Donetsk region before seizing Avdiivka. A top Ukrainian commander, though, insists the military will stabilize the battlefield situation shortly and says the aim is to form units for counter-offensive actions later this year.
Наша задача стабілізувати лінію фронту.
Our goal is to stabilize the front line, to cause as much damage to the enemy, exactly what we are doing, and to regroup in order to withdraw units that require restoring. Withdraw the units to bases to form offensive grouping and conduct counter-offensive actions this year.
Провести контрударні дії.
Well, DD India's Megami Lim joins me now live from Kiev. Megami, tell us more about those advances that the Russian forces are claiming since taking Avdiivka and how significant they are.
Well, that's right. Russian forces have continued to try to advance forward and try to apply pressure all along the 1,000-kilometer-long front line. Now, one of the objectives of this is to make sure that Kiev's troops don't have the time to replenish, to regroup, and that this pressure will allow Russian troops to continue to move forward and seize more villages. Now, according to the latest intelligence update by the UK Ministry of Defense, they've said that Russian forces have intensified their attacks around the town of Bakhmut, which was captured by Russian forces in May of last year. And if we remember, this was the last significant battlefield gain for Moscow before the fall of Avdiivka, before they captured Avdiivka in February last month. And now Russian forces are trying to advance forward, and it looks like they have already made some gains and have taken parts of some villages surrounding Bakhmut. And also on the same axis, we're seeing Russian forces intensify their attacks around Chasiv Yar, which is about 5 kilometers from the front lines. This appears to be one of their immediate operational objectives, to seize this town of Chasiv Yar. And in the northeast, in the Kupiansk direction, now Kupiansk has come under intensified attacks even before the fall of Avdiivka, but now these attacks have increased, and Russian forces are trying to break through Ukrainian positions there. And we've seen reports that they have been using small assault groups, which makes it very difficult for Ukrainian forces who are facing critical ammunition shortages, and to have to expend precious ammunition on these small assault groups make it very, very difficult for Ukrainian forces. And these small assault groups, Russian troops, are trying to find weak spots along the Ukrainian positions and try to exploit these weak spots and trying to advance from there. Now, this is a very difficult situation for Ukraine, because they are right now trying to replenish themselves and to regroup, and also they're trying to protect the villages and the territories that they still have. And I've just been to these frontline towns recently, just when Avdiivka was being captured by Russian forces. And residents living in these frontline towns in the east have said that they're very afraid that Russian troops may advance to their homes, to their villages, and that they may come under Russian occupation again.
DD India's Megami Lim in Kiev, thank you. Talks aimed at reaching a ceasefire in Gaza before Ramadan continue in Cairo. According to officials concerned, a delegation from Hamas has left Cairo for the time being for further consultations, but talks are expected to resume next week. Negotiators from Hamas, Qatar and Egypt are trying to secure a 40-day ceasefire in time for the holy month of Ramadan, which begins next week. Israel has remained absent, but officials say they are in contact. The Swedish military says it is ready for what it calls the necessary move to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Foreign Minister Tobias Billström have left for the United States, where they're expected to complete the process of joining the military alliance, NATO. Sweden will become NATO's 32nd member, ending 200 years of neutrality and military non-alignment. As a NATO member, Sweden will be a further link between the Atlantic and the Baltic states in times of crisis.
It's been a long journey, of course, and it's a political decision that we in the armed forces and the Swedish Navy really stand by, and unfortunately it's a necessary move, big move in Swedish national policy, but for sure it's about the security environment in our part of Europe.
The European Union's primary political faction, the centre-right European People's Party, has held a vote to endorse Ursula von der Leyen, the current European Commission President, for a second term to lead the EU's executive branch. Running unopposed in the EPP ballot, von der Leyen highlighted challenges like the conflict in Ukraine, the Gaza crisis and the rise of China as key concerns for the 27-member European Union, comprising approximately 450 million people. So she has won that vote, which precedes a European-wide parliamentary election in June, which will determine new top officials, including the head of the Brussels-based European Commission for the next 5 years. After their sweep of Super Tuesday votes, Donald Trump has challenged Joe Biden to televised presidential debates. Former US President Trump said online that he would participate in a TV forum with the current President Joe Biden anytime, anywhere, any place, he said. Trump's challenge came hours after his last Republican rival Nikki Haley suspended her campaign for the Republican nomination for the White House. No debates have yet been agreed upon ahead of November's election. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden is set to deliver the third State of the Union address of his presidency later today. The president is expected to touch on his handling of the economy, reproductive rights, gun control and immigration. And that's it from me here in London. For now, Shubendu, back to you in the studio.
Appreciate you joining us with those updates, Ollie. And we're heading for a short break still to come on DT India Global. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un orders heightened readiness for war as he inspects major military operations base in the western region. And Venus of Rags was inaugurated in Naples, Italy.
Why is Donald Trump threatening to leave NATO to fend for itself? Is crypto the future of digital money, and are we ready for it? Is there a whole new world out there deep under the Pacific? Watch Connecting the Dots to get the full picture every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Shifting focus, Taiwan has accused China of stepping up grey zone warfare against it, aiming to make the areas around the democratic island saturated with balloons, drones and civilian boats. Taiwan Defense Ministry says Beijing has launched multi-front saturated grey zone tactics to harass Taiwan, including increased patrols of ships and planes. It added China has also incorporated research and militia vessels in a move to disguise military activities with civilians. Meanwhile, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi, in a briefing on Thursday, termed the actions of those who support Taiwan as the greatest destructive factor to peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
If there are still people who condone or support Taiwan independence, they are challenging China's sovereignty. If certain countries insist on maintaining official relations with the Taiwan region, they are interfering in China's internal affairs. Our bottom line is also clear. We'll never allow Taiwan to be separated from the motherland.
Another country that is in direct tussle with Beijing is Philippines, regarding which it has accused the United States of using Manila as a pawn in the South China Sea. Relations between the two Asian nations have deteriorated over their territorial dispute in the region. DD India's Kate Fisher gets us more from Washington.
The US State Department condemned China's repeated obstruction of Filipino vessels undertaking lawful maritime operations in the South China Sea. The Chinese Foreign Ministry defended its actions, saying it had been taking, quote, control measures against the Philippines' illegal intrusion into waters that it claims, as well as accusing a Philippine ship of intentionally ramming a Chinese one and saying that the Philippines should not let itself be at the mercy of the United States. Well, the US has said it stands with its ally, the Philippines, and has reaffirmed that the mutual defence treaty they share extends to armed attacks on Philippine armed forces, public vessels or aircraft, including those of its Coast Guard, anywhere in the South China Sea. Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that though he viewed the actions against the country's Coast Guard with great alarm, it is not the time or the reason to invoke that treaty. Well, Tuesday's collisions follow similar incidents in December, with hostilities between Beijing and an increasingly assertive Philippines worsening. China lays claim to almost the entire South China Sea, ignoring competing claims from several Southeast Asian nations and an international arbitration ruling to the contrary. In Washington, Kate Fisher, reporting for DD India.
North Korea leader Kim Jong-un has ordered heightened war preparations. State media says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected field training of troops at a major military operations base in western region of the country and ordered heightened readiness for war. According to the report, Kim says the military must, and I quote, dynamically usher in a new heyday of intensifying the war preparations in line with the requirements of the prevailing situation. The tour of the base came after start of annual combined military drills by US and South Korean forces on Monday in the south. Members of the Indian community joined the launching of Chalo India Global Diaspora campaign on Thursday at High Commission of India in Bangladesh. Prime Minister Modi requested Indian diaspora members to encourage at least 5 non-Indian friends to travel to India. The High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Pranay Verma, officials of High Commission and Indian diaspora in Bangladesh were present during the launch of this campaign. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is in Japan, where he delivered the opening remarks at the 16th India-Japan Foreign Ministers Strategic Dialogue in Tokyo on Thursday. In his address, S. Jaishankar said that India sees Japan as a natural partner in its journey of development and transformation. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Germany faced strikes on 3 fronts on Thursday as train drivers, airport security workers and Lufthansa ground staff walked off the job. The strikes become further headache for millions of travelers in Europe's largest economy. The latest walkout, set to last about 35 hours, marks the beginning of a wave of rail strikes planned by a German union of locomotive drivers as it pushes for reduced working hours at full pay. Egyptians are grappling with rising prices of dates, a staple during Ramadan amid economic strain. Buyers express concerns over rising prices and are opting for smaller quantities this season. The prices of many staple foods in Egypt rose much faster over the past couple of years, as well as the economic growth has been slowed. Archaeologists have discovered the earliest dated cave paintings in South America, dating back 8,200 years in Argentine Patagonia. The 895 paintings were found by Argentine and Chilean archaeologists in Hueñul 1 cave. The discovery provides evidence of artistic ability and cultural transmission of hunter-gatherer societies. It also revealed sociological resilience to climate. An open-air installation of Italian contemporary artist Michelangelo Pistoletto, Venus of the Rags, was inaugurated in Naples in Italy on Wednesday. The sculpture had been destroyed by an arson attack last year. The new version is made of fireproof material. And the 96th Oscars will take place coming Sunday in Los Angeles. This year's Oscar gift bags will have nominees well rested with great skin and full stomachs. Unique, luxurious and thoughtful gifts have been assembled for the top nominees. Seems awards are not the only thing to look forward to at the Oscars. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.